Today we're going to be talking about how to start a business. So pretty sure you've been to a workshop before, but in case you haven't, it is a webinar, so I can't hear or see you. You can only hear and see me. Please feel free to use the chat or the Q&A to ask me any questions. I'm happy to stop at any time, pull something up, explain it in a different way if you need it, but I am here for you. So let me know if you have any questions at all. So I have been teaching how to start businesses and how to do different things for businesses for about 6 or 8 years now. It's 8 years. I worked for 6 years at the Island County Economic Development Council, doing a lot of business consulting with small businesses here in Island County, and now I work at Goosefoot teaching these workshops. So I also have my own business, so obviously I don't know everything there is to know about business ever, but I'm happy to answer a lot of questions and help you strategize the best way to move forward with your business. So on that note, here's what we're going to be covering today. I do have slides for all of these, so don't worry about catching this right now. I'm also recording this webinar, so you can go back and review it afterwards if you need to, or I'll also send you the slides when we're done as well. So first off, in order for a small business to be successful, it must solve a problem, fulfill a need, or offer something the market wants. It's great if your business makes you happy, it's something that you love, but unless you're going to be, your only customer, you need to think beyond yourself. What does the community around you or the community you plan to sell in need? That's not always the same thing, especially in current times. A lot of businesses moved online, and obviously you can reach anyone anywhere with online. But even outside of current circumstances, there are plenty of businesses here in Island County, and specifically on Whidbey Island, who live and operate here, but all of their business takes place elsewhere, like Seattle or Bellingham or somewhere else. So depending on where you're selling, are you filling a need, a want, or solving a problem? To answer that question, you need to do some research. First off, who's your target audience? Where are they located? How much do they spend on your product? What's your competition like? How many competitors are near you? And what are you going to do differently? Now you may be asking, I don't know how to answer all of these questions. No worries. Luckily for you, here in Island County, we have one of the best resources in the entire state. Snow Isle Libraries has a ton of free tools that can help you answer all of these questions and more. All you need is a library card, and right now, if you don't already have one, they are letting you sign up for that online right now. So on that note, I'm actually going to go ahead and pull these systems up and show you which ones are really cool, which ones will help you answer the questions, how to use them. My caution right here, right now, is this is a really dense section. I've never figured out a way to condense it more because there's just so much information, and it's such good information I can't really cut any of it out. So you might get overwhelmed. That would be when I highly recommend watching this video back, going through the slides, or you can also book a librarian who can sit down one-on-one with you and go over these things once things are back open. You can also email the business librarian. So on that note, let's go ahead and take a look at it. So I'm going to go ahead and go to snow-isle.org, which is the library's website. And they have moved things around right now, unfortunately, due to current situation. So it might take me a bit of poking around to find it. All right, so if you go to research in this top orange bar and go to business resources, this will get you there the fastest. And obviously they have a huge amount of stuff broken up into different categories, depending on where you are, if you're starting your business, growing your business. But we're going to skip right on down here to business and finance resources. So I'm going to click on that. And you'll come to this page that has so much stuff on it. And I'm not going to go through everything because that would just be way too much. But first off, I'm going to stop in here on ABI Inform Trade and Industry, which is the first link. You have to log in with your library card. Use my silly username. Because I don't like typing in the 17 digits of the library card. I've switched it to a username. But this resource has so much information on every industry you could ever imagine. Now, Victor, I don't know exactly what industry you are in, but for this example, let's look at bakeries. So obviously, search terms, super simple, bakery. Let it think for a minute. Now it gives me a ton of lists. You can see there's 144,000 results here. I don't have time to go through all of them. The ones I'm really interested in are let's gonna go down here to, I believe it's publication type. Nope, document type. Industry report is the biggest one that in this tool that I want to see. I'm going to look at the industry report for bakeries. You can also narrow it down to industry profiles, which is what we're going to look at. You can look at specific companies. You can narrow it down to locations, such as, Europe or United States specifically. No, I don't want Middle East, I want USA. Narrow languages, anything you need to start narrowing it. And as soon as I clicked US, you can see I got these quarterly updates. The quarterly updates are really what I'm looking for, and you can find them in any industry, including carpentry. So it's got all of the quarterly updates kind of jumbled in here, so you'll have to kind of scroll down the list until you find the most recent one. That one is July 30th, 2018. There's 2019. That might be the newest one. Yeah, okay, so this one, July 22nd, 2019, so it's not quite a year old. These reports are packed with so much information that can really help you do your research before you open your doors. So it's got a brief explanation of the report, but down here you've got overview, so what kind of companies are included in this industry. International trade does not play a major role in baking, obviously, but disruption in grain production and trade can have an impact on it. So it looks at both the US impact and the global impact. It's the same thing with any sort of woodworking. Obviously, you probably mostly sell your stuff in the US, but I have another client who's a woodworker, and he sources his wood from all over the world. So international trade can definitely disrupt his supply. You can see the competitive landscape. So what actually drives the need? What's the problem you're solving? What's the need that people are filling when they shop for you? How's the competition? Large companies have scale advantage. Small companies can compete by offering specialty goods or superior local distribution. The largest 50% of companies generate about 75% of revenue. And again, we're looking at bakeries as an example. But on the retail side, 50 largest companies generate about 20% of the revenue. So bakeries are pretty well diversified. So there definitely is room for small operations. Talks about what kind of stuff you can sell. It might give you good ideas of what sort of products to focus on. As you can see, breads account for 40% of the market in the US. 30% comes from rolls, buns, muffins, bagels, and croissants. 10 from cakes, and the rest, small percentage, from pies, pastries, donuts, and sweet goods. Nice breakdown as well. Scroll down a little far on the actual page. You can see what kind of technology you might need to incorporate in your business, or what's available to help you do better. It's got really great strategies on sales and marketing. It's got finance and regulation information. So what's the turnover based on how big the company is? So these reports are a lot of pages, but they're really genuinely very helpful when you're first starting out, or even when you're looking to improve and grow your business, just to see what is the industry looking like, what ideas could I get to market better, what kind of products could I be selling. So I highly recommend these reports. Again, this is the ABI Inform Trade and Industry, and then you just search your industry and you narrow it down by industry reports and by the United States, and those quarterly updates should pop up right at the top. So obviously, there's so much more in here. You can find a lot of specifics on specific companies. If there's a really big company, you're like, I wish I could do what they do. You can find a lot of reports in here, especially if they're publicly traded. But there's a lot of really good information in here. So that's ABI Inform. If you're ever interested in some business magazines like The Economist, Entrepreneur, those ones can be really expensive to subscribe to, but luckily the library has a subscription. So you can check those out at any time just by clicking here on the business magazine section. Business Plans e-bookshelf is really great. It has a lot of sample plans taken from real businesses that have just changed the name and some of the details to keep the company's information private. But if you're like me and you get to writing your business plan and you go, how do I even state this? Or what do I do with this? This is a great resource to see what other people are doing and to kind of copy the style. Gale Business Demographics Now is the next one I'm going to go into. It has a lot of those demographic information I was asking you earlier of, how many customers are around you? What do they care about? Where do they get their information? How much money do they spend on your product? So obviously, very few of you are going to be serving the entire US. A lot of you are a lot more local. Let me move my face out of the way so I can reach these options. Up here in the very top right corner, and here, let me turn my highlight on so you can actually see where my mouse is. So up here in the top options, you can fiddle with the geo filter, and there are so many settings. So I'm still in the way. I'm going to click on geography list so I can see the entire list of options. So you can see there's census tracts, there's counties, school districts, congressional districts, states, zip codes, cities. So there's a lot of options in here. For this, I'm going to go ahead and look at Island County. So I clicked on counties. Now I'm going to go down to Washington and then over to Island. And obviously you can put multiple counties up here. Say you're considering, should I start here on Whidbey or should I do it in King County? You can put both of them up so you can compare them against each other. But I'm just going to look at Island for now. And you can also compare different types of areas. You don't have to be consistent. So you could compare Island County with 98260, which is the Langley zip code, with the entire Washington state. It's okay to compare from different lists. But like I said, for now, for this example, we're just going to look at Island County. And then I'm going to go into demographics. And here there are a ton of tables with a ton of reports. I could genuinely spend the entire workshop just talking about this, but I know numbers are scary for some people, so I'm going to get in and just do the ones that I think are really important. You're welcome to come and fiddle with this depending on how much you love numbers personally. So it's default set to comparison, but as you can see, I only have one location picked. So I'm not going to stay on comparison. I'm going to go to summary because I just want the numbers for Island County. And now, as you can see, you can get report names, you can get age by sex, basic demographic information. So this is a really good just starting place of how many people are in Island County, how many households, what's the average income. All of that information are in these basic demographic. So you can see over in Island County, the biggest spike is 25K to 75K. And then there's also a pretty decent spike of 100K plus, which makes sense. We have a lot of wealthy retired people here or wealthy people who have second homes. As you can see, that number is only going to increase in projected for 2024. These projections might be a little different now with current economic climate, but we are projected to continue to get wealthier and wealthier people and less of the under 25K. You can see we have a very seasonal population here in Island County. Our numbers are significantly higher in Q2 and Q3 each year because that is summer and fall. Whereas Q1 and Q4, which is winter, not as many people live here. If you live in Island County, you know that's accurate. You can see household size. We are largely a 2-person household. It's a lot of older people who don't have kids at home anymore. There is a decent chunk of 1-person households. Again, a lot of older people who are never married, people who are widowed, or people who are just living on their own. Age-wise, this shouldn't surprise anybody. Our biggest spike is that purple bar at 55 to 64, but we do have a decent chunk of 25 to 34. That is largely because of the base up in Oak Harbor. If you've picked 98260 rather than Island County, those numbers would be a lot more distinct. And you can see the projection for where we're going to be projected as well. Doesn't surprise anyone, we're overwhelmingly white in Island County and we overwhelmingly speak English. We're also in Island County, we're very educated. The largest chunk of people have at least some college, but there's a huge chunk of folks with bachelor's and graduate's degrees as well. So as you can see, a lot of basic demographic information here. But we're going to move on to another report. So you could also check in on what major industries are here. If you're more of a business to business kind of company, you're not necessarily trying to tap into Sally Mae down the street who's restructuring her kitchen. You're trying to tap into the construction businesses so that you can be a direct subcontractor to them. You can get a lot of that business information in here as well. So you can see, business summary report, what kind of industries do we have here? How many employees in that category? How much, how big is the company? So a lot of really great breakdown on businesses here as well. It's not just a tool for business to consumer. So the next reports I'm going to look at, some of my favorite, are the consumer expenditure reports. So these reports are put together by Experian. They know where you're spending your money. And so they're telling you within the region you selected, how much money are people spending in a household in a year on various things. So take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, because obviously if I go into like auto transportation, our auto sales are very low. But if you are familiar with Island County at all, it's not that people don't have a car, it's that there are very few places to buy cars here. So as you can see, the average household spends $934 on a new car purchase each year. You can't buy a new car for $934. It's just that you can't buy one in Island County. There are a couple of places, which is why there's numbers there at all, but those sales don't take place here. And the sales get reported where it is located. So if you go off to Snohomish and buy a car over there, or Seattle, those numbers are going to get recorded over there, not for Island County, even though you live here. The only time it would get reported here is if you either bought it here or if you bought it online and had it delivered to your house here. So there is that caveat. These numbers are not hard set in stone, but they're a really good guideline. So let's look at, going back to my bakery example, let's look at food and beverage. So I'm going to hit run report, and it gives me a really good picture of, there's some basic demographic information again, how many households are in Island County, what's the average and the median income. And now I can see in 2019, this is how much folks spent on average as a household in the year. Again, how averages work, some households buy a lot of stuff, some households buy nothing of it, so it all gets kind of averaged out. As you can see, beer is pretty decent, whiskey, very small. Wine, much higher. We are very big wine drinkers in Island County, which again, shouldn't really surprise you. Food away from home can be really cool because you can see people spend a lot more money on dinner and lunch than they do on breakfast. Again, caveat, there might be other factors than just people don't buy breakfast out. There's the factor that there are a lot fewer places to buy breakfast from. A lot of restaurants offer lunch and dinner service, and they don't offer breakfast at all. So there are, correlation is not causation. There could be a number of factors for why that number is low. If the number is lower, that doesn't mean there is no room for you at all. It just means there might be a lot of factors, and you should take a little bit of time to consider it. But dinner and lunch, huge in Island County. And it's not just locals that are eating it, it's the visitors as well, but that contributes to our numbers as well, which is why, you know, lunch and dinner is so much higher than catering, which is about $39 on average. If I wanted to run a bakery, I would love this section right here because it flat out tells me this is what people are buying. Bread other than white is significantly higher than white bread. So maybe I want to diversify what kind of stuff I was looking at. Or maybe I really want to do fresh pies, tarts, and turnovers. That number is the lowest in the category other than bread and cracker products. So maybe I should diversify a little bit more than just that section. Or if I don't need as much to get on, maybe that's fine by me. But this number gives you a good indication of, is there a demand in the area? Good place to start anyway. The other nice thing about these consumer expenditure reports is if you scroll down, you actually can see there's a 2024 projection. So you can see, is the number for my category going up? Is it going down? Is it staying the same? Is there a future for my business in this area? So that can also help. And obviously, as you can see, there's consumer expenditure reports for so many things. Furnishings would probably be very interesting for you, Victor, because that's what you do. But also, you know, construction and a lot of other things, I'm sure. So you can see what kind of stuff people are spending their money on. If you can't find your specific area of expertise in the consumer expenditure reports, because it doesn't cover everything, there is another similar report down near the bottom of the list. It's called the Simmons report. Instead of dollar amounts for this is how much a household spends, you know, in an average a year, it looks instead at what percentage of people spend any money at all in that category. And it's nice because it has some broader categories. So as you can see right down here, they have entertainment, leisure, and dining, which is not even a category up in the one we looked at earlier. So you can see there's a lot of different places to kind of compare your numbers to. And how these numbers work is as an index. 100 is the average across the entire US. So for Island County, they are either above or below that average. Family restaurants is 110. They over the average spend money on family restaurants, a little less on fast food restaurants. Again, that makes sense. How many fast food places do we have outside of Oak Harbor? Not that many. Casino gambling is not a lot because we don't have a lot of places to gamble around here. Collectibles, movie genres, so you can see what kind of interests they have as well. This can be really nice because that tells you how to market instead of just focusing on selling your product. Where do you actually sell it to? Where are they interested in? So this can give you a nice, good look at what other kinds of stuff they're interested in. You know, maybe advertise in a fishing magazine. So that's the consumer expenditure and the Simmons reports. That tells you how much people spend on things. The last report I'm going to go into here, and again, I apologize, I know there's just so much numbers in here. The last one we're going to look at is the Mosaic reports. Again, Mosaic is put together by Experian, so they know where your money is going. They've divided everybody up into groups based on location, age, interests, that sort of thing. And they've given them all these funny little names, but the reports are really good for businesses that are starting out. So we're going to look at the Mosaic household summary, and then I'm going to click run report. It's going to give me this nice table with, again, that demographic breakdown at the top of how many people, where they located, median income, all of that stuff. But it's also going to break it down into what populations in Island County fall into. So overwhelmingly, we are in this L category, the blue sky boomers. Actually, I don't want this report. I want the one that's a little bit more specific. So I'm actually going to go to the index, so the household cluster index report. This one actually breaks it down into even more subcategories so you can get more specific. So as you can see, again, they've called everybody these kind of silly little names. Feel free to laugh at them, but they're not important. The numbers over here on the side are. So that's what I'm looking at. Overwhelmingly in Island County, our largest population spike is this 14.5% of the population falls into this category that they've deemed booming and consuming. I'm gonna scroll down really quick just to make sure that's not, there's not a bigger category. Nope, that's it. All right, so luckily they've made this easier for us. They've hyperlinked the reports. You just have to go through a bunch of steps to find it. But for now, I'm just gonna click right here on booming and consuming. And it gives me this nice, lovely report. Unfortunately, I'm a little annoyed because they keep stripping more and more useful things out of it, but this first page is still really useful. It gives you a nice picture so you can immediately picture what kind of people they're talking about in this category. Gives you key features. They live a rural lifestyle, they are married without kids, they read newspapers, they are home and garden enthusiasts, they have disposable income, and they like to be trendsetters. They're between the ages of 51 and 65. They make about $50,000 to $75,000 a year. They own their homes. They live in a single family home. Average household size is one person. They don't have kids at home. The channel preferences is where they get their information. So this is very helpful to you when you start trying to advertise your business. So this specific group overwhelmingly prefers physical mail. That's what that symbol means. So the text messages, 25, that is significantly lower than the 145 of physical mail. Radio is 2, so radio is not an effective way to meet this group. Honestly, a lot of these are very hard to reach them at. Physical mail is really where it's at with this group, with a little bit of email if they've signed up for your email list. And overwhelmingly, they are novices on technology. So if you need them to do anything too advanced on the computer, you're going to lose them because that's too far for them. They don't get it. So this page just gives you a nice snapshot of the groups in the area you're trying to reach and how to reach them and their basic demographic information. And then this page just explains, that it's just visual display of the data. So this line in the middle here is the US average, and every group is either above or below that. That page just explains to you how to read the charts, not how to read in general. And then this page gives you a nice text breakdown of who this group is. So I like this page because sometimes numbers don't work for me. It's like, what are you trying to say? Who are you talking about? This page breaks down a lot of really interesting things of they have disposable income for travel and outdoor activities. They love to head to the nearby park and woodlands. They like long car rides. They don't live close to downtown centers, but they've carried their love for culture with them and will drive to the city to attend a play or concert. They're determined to live heavy on out recreation and leisure. If they do have still jobs, they're a mix of white collar, blue collar, and service sector. So I can see what kind of stuff they do. They don't have a lot of need for recognition, but they care on the integrity of the brand and customer service. So that means if this is the group I'm trying to reach, that's what I really need to focus on for my business. So love these reports, super short, easy to read. It's very easy to print this out and highlight things that you can then pull into your business plan later. So that is the Mosaic reports, genuinely love them. And as I mentioned earlier, there's so many reports in here you could go through. There's maps you can play with. The Demographics Now system has a really robust tutorial system, so you can get very customized data showing exactly what you want, exactly how you want it. And they have a lot of tutorials that teach you how to pull those numbers so you can get what you want. So if you're interested in this kind of information, feel free to poke around a lot, but I'm going to go ahead and move on. So the next thing we're going to look at is the plan builder. So we're going to talk about writing a business plan today, but if you don't want to use the format I'm going to talk about, this one is a really great tool. It asks you, I'm not going to go ahead and log into this, but it asks you very plain language questions on, what are you doing? What are you selling? How are you going to reach people? How are you going to make money at it? And you answer those in very plain language answers. And then it takes all of those and it dumps it into a plan that you can just download and take to the bank or any investors, or just keep on a shelf to remind yourself to stay focused. So I genuinely love this tool. It's both for new businesses and businesses who have been around a while but want to maybe give themselves a refresh or a boost, and it's good for nonprofits as well. So genuinely love the plan builder tool. One more thing I'm going to show you before a couple more resources we're going to get actually in depth on, but lynda.com is a huge database of really great tutorials on anything you could ever want to learn. If you go directly to lynda.com, you have to pay because it is a product of LinkedIn. But if you click on that link in the library, you can just log in with your library card and you get free access. As you can see, nope, go back. Right at the top here, they have a lot of really great learning paths, like becoming a small business owner, becoming a photographer, phone-based customer service, which is very important right now. But also in the library, you can see if you go under, say, business, they have presentations, productivity, data analysis, social media marketing, management, communication, QuickBooks, PowerPoint, becoming a craft business owner. So a lot of really great courses. And the nice thing about all of these courses is they're put together by experienced, trained professionals who really know what they're talking about. And you can go at your own pace. As you can see over here on the sidebar, I have this continue watching box because I started videos and then I left, either because it wasn't what I wanted or because I ran out of time to continue watching it. And so I can click on this and it'll take me right back to the video where I was, in the place where I was, so I don't have to start over. They also have their video training, but they have text descriptions as well if you want to read instead of watch somebody. Or you could always print out the text yourself and then take notes on it. I know a lot of folks that did something like that in college. So Reference USA is a really great tool for marketing. I talk about that more in Marketing 101, and unfortunately right now it is down, so I can't show you that, but it gives you a tool that you can find a list of businesses that cover certain areas, make a certain amount of money, are within certain locations, and have X number of employees. Or you can also use it to find customers who would be interested in your product based on the research we did earlier in that demographic area. Again, I talk about that tool in Marketing 101, and I can't show it to you right now anyway because it's down. The last section I'm really going to look at, wait, two more sections. First off, down here, the very bottom of the page is a nice little bookshelf of business books that you can download with just a click. So you don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to get in line to get it. You just click on it. You can download it and read it from your computer. And it has it on every subject you could imagine. You can see how to write a business plan, crushing it, the communication secrets to get 5 stars, small business startup kit, how to make your money last, start a successful business, straight up talk for startups. So a lot of really great books. If any of these interest you, they're just at this bottom of the page and you can download with a click. So now we're going to go ahead and look at Small Business Reference Center, which is the last library tool I'm going to show you, and I promise we'll move on. So the Small Business Reference Center has very easy to understand, very quick guides on pretty much anything you might need as a business owner. So you can see all the way over here on the left, they have startup kit and business plans. So guides on writing a business plan. They again have sample business plans that are different than the ones on the business plan bookshelf we looked at earlier. Profit and loss forecast, sales revenue forecast. So if you need to write up any of these, you click on this and it'll actually give you access to an Excel file that you can download to your computer and work from instead of having to write something from scratch. They also have business basics. So, coaching an employee, doing business on eBay, hiring your first employees, marketing your business, selling your business if you get to that point, starting a business with less than $1,000. So tax deductions, how helpful is that? And then they also have business areas like accounting, selling your business, expanding a business, going green, legal issues, marketing and public relations. So a lot of these tools are very helpful, and the paragraphs that they lead to are very short and very easy to understand, very easy to read. I think the longest one I saw was 9 pages, so not too difficult to parse for the busy business owner. And you can also search for things as well. One last tool I wanted to show you before we move on that I skipped over entirely is the Legal Information Reference Center. This tool can help give you a lot of legal documents as a template that you can start to work from. So say you need a non-compete, or you need a non-disclosure agreement, or you need a partnership agreement. You can get a lot of the base forms here written by actual legal professionals who know what they're doing. They have a lot of fill in the blanks. So, put your company name here, put your name here, the other person's name there. Even if it's something that you inevitably actually have to take to a lawyer to make sure it's airtight, to make sure it's good, starting with something based on one of these forms can save you a lot of time, because then they didn't have to write anything. They just had to review what you already wrote. So even if you have to go to a lawyer, which sometimes you do, this is a good place to at least start and save yourself a little bit of money. So that is a ton of library resources. I just dumped on you all at once. Again, I apologize. If you have any questions, I'm happy to pull any of them up again, but I will be sending you these slides so you can go back and look. I should fix that link because they've changed that now, so I should make sure it's relevant. Ooh, I need this. All right, so you can also, if you don't like any of the kind of broader data that's available online, you want something more specific to you, you could do focus groups. Just pull people into a room together, or use online tools to ask people their opinions. Sit them down and ask them, this or that, here or there. What do you think about this idea? There are a lot of tricks to running focus groups, to not polluting the data and not leading the audience and getting real solid information from them. That takes years of training. So if you're trying to get really, really pure data for whatever reason, I would hire someone to run the focus group for you. But that's far too high level for most of the businesses around here. You can absolutely just run it yourself. You could also just go for trial and error. At the end of the day, this is what most businesses do. You just pick an idea and you run with it, you see what works, and you adjust from there. So even with all of the research and all the data behind you, at the end of the day, it is going to come down to a bit of trial and error. You can also survey people. That's what I did when I was starting my own business. I went to business owners that I thought I might want to work with, and I said, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm thinking about charging this much. What do you think? Some people told me, oh, I could never pay that much a month. That's just far too much. Other people told me, you're charging far too little. I settled on an amount. I went with it. And what do you know? Some of those people that told me they wouldn't be able to pay that ended up being some of my clients. So do take it with a grain of salt. People don't always know what they want, and they don't know everything, but it is at least a good way to get out of your head and to get other ideas. So now that you've done your research, time to get feedback. You need to run your business by everyone you can get listen to you for 5 minutes. Introduce yourself to potential customers or clients and ask them what they think and what they need. And then talk to business professionals. There are organizations out there specifically to help your business. SCORE is doing free online one-on-one meetings right now. The Small Business Development Center, I haven't checked in with them, but I'm sure they're doing something similar. Whidbey Island Local Lending is a funding group of local people who want to spend their money on local businesses. Again, it's a loan, not a grant, so you do have to pay the money back, but it does usually come with some mentorship as well. There's also the Economic Development Council. They have some stuff posted on their website about helping small businesses. So these are organizations that you're already paying for. You've already paid for them with your taxes, so use them. Do not try to do this on your own. Business is very difficult, and there are a lot of people out there to help you do it better. So don't be afraid to call on them. So getting into a business plan, a lot of people balk at the business plan. They think, oh, that's so much work and that's so much pressure and I just don't have time. But having a plan is going to help you get to your destination in the best way possible so that you're not jumping on a lot of different ideas that end up pulling you in a bunch of different directions so you don't do any of them very well and you end up spending a lot of money that you didn't need to spend. It helps keep you focused. It also helps communicate to any potential investors, suppliers, employees, and others that you've thought everything through. And they help you pay attention to the details before you sink a bunch of money. If you came here to this workshop today to tell me you wanted to open a video rental store, I would have some bad news for you, friend. That's just not a good plan in the current climate especially, but it hasn't been a good idea for a few years now. The market has moved on. You can also write up transition plans. Even if you're solid in your business, you know what you want, you know where you're going, transition plans will help know what happens next. If something happens to you, who gets the business? When you retire, do you sell the business? Do you give it to a top employee? Do you close it? What do you do with it? So transition plans will help lay that out in case anything happens to you, but also just so everyone's on the same page. I have worked with a few businesses who some very hurt feelings ended up being caused because an employee who really made the business, who'd been working their tail off for years, really thought they would get the business, that they'd get a shot at owning it someday, which is why they put so much work into it. And then the owner went around and sold it to someone else without ever talking to the employee. That was a very messy situation and it wasn't fun. So it's just good to keep everybody on the same page. But really, the most important part of a business plan is the process. I don't expect you to write a college level paper. I don't expect it to be highly researched with tons of data and information. I expect it to be logical and thought out and make sense to you. Because at the end of the day, your business plan is for yourself. Obviously, if you go for outside financing, you're going to have a business plan, but that's only because they want proof that you have thought things through. So do it in whatever format you need. I had a client who got funding and their business plan was a dream board. If it works for you, it works. Awesome. But make sure it makes sense for you. So we're going to go over the business plan kind of page by page. Here's all of the categories we're going to go through, but I'm going to keep moving forward. First off is the table of contents, but this is actually the last thing you do. The table of contents function is to list the key sections of the business plan, what's actually in it, as a quick reference so that I can skip specifically to the section I'm interested in. It can bring organization and structure to your plan, but really, you only need a business plan if you have 10 pages or more. If your business plan is 10 pages or less, you can skip the table of contents. People can just flip through to see what they need. My business plan for my business was 3 pages. It doesn't have to be this big, long production. It is okay to be short and sweet. But if you do have a big business plan with a lot of details, a lot of research, a lot of numbers, a lot of diagrams of what you're doing, then go ahead and include more pages than that. Make sure you include a table of contents. The executive summary comes first in your business plan, but you write it last. You can't really summarize what's going on if you haven't written the rest of it yet. So the point of the executive summary is to entice someone to read the rest of the plan. Thankfully, my life is a lot different nowadays, but when I first started teaching these classes back when EDC, I had to read so many reports every single day. I did not have time to read all of those. I had other things to do. So what I would always do was go to the executive summary and read that and see if it was of interest to me. If you can't entice me to read the rest of the plan from the executive summary, then your executive summary has failed. The whole point of the executive summary is to provide an enthusiastic snapshot of your company. You should be excited about it, because if you're not excited about what you are doing, why should I be? Your executive summary should be less than half a page. I have worked with businesses whose executive summary was 2 pages, and then the rest of the business plan was about a paragraph. That is not a summary. It's not a summary if it's longer than the rest of the business plan. It needs to be short, sweet, and to the point. Basically, your executive summary should be your elevator pitch on paper. And if you haven't heard of an elevator pitch, the whole idea behind it is that you can explain your business, what you're doing, and why it's important in the amount of time it takes for you to explain it to somebody while you're trapped in an elevator with them going between floors. Super sweet, short, punchy, and enthusiastic. There are a lot of really great tools for how to write a good executive summary or a good elevator pitch, including some videos on lynda.com that we talked about earlier. But a good way to just start to get your thoughts in order is to take the most important section from each sentence from each section, paste it onto one page, and then edit it until it makes sense. That's a good way for me to start, but honestly, whatever method works best for you is totally fine, as long as it's enthusiastic and short. So your business description. This is the next section up, and this is where you really start getting into the meat. So your business description is the who, what, where, when, and how. What industry are you in? Why are you doing this? It's so much easier to work for someone else. Why are you starting your own business? What's special about your business based against every other business that does something similar? Why should I care? Answer all of these questions as clearly and as forthright as you can. You also need to include your vision statement and your mission statement. So, what do I mean by those? Your mission statement is the heart of your business. It's who you are. What is the most important thing about your business? It needs to be easy to understand language so everyone who works for you remembers it. The mission statement is the thing you see on the wall in some businesses that you go, okay, so, customer service is our business, whatever it is. What is the most important thing about your business? Is it quality? Is it speed? Is it convenience? Is it customer service? Is it sustainability? What is the thing? What's the driving heart that led you to starting your own business instead of working for someone else? What is it? Put that in your business plan under the mission statement. It doesn't have to be big, convoluted academic language. It needs to be straightforward and make sense. So if your mission statement is who you are, oh, sorry, I forgot I put some good mission statements in here because in the past I've had people ask me, but what does a mission statement look like? So here's some good examples. Facebook's is to give people the power to share and make the world more open and connected. They have done that for better or worse, but that is definitely what Facebook strives to do. Kickstarter's is to help bring creative projects to life. And if you aren't familiar with Kickstarter, it is a crowdfunding platform where people go on and pitch their business idea and people contribute money to make it happen. So I say they do that. Google's is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. Intuit, which owns QuickBooks, is to provide its customers to improve its customers' financial lives so profoundly They couldn't imagine going back to the old way. Anybody who uses QuickBooks, I think they've hit that mark, because everybody I've talked to who uses QuickBooks can't use anything else. So I think they're doing pretty okay with that. So back to what I was saying earlier, if the mission statement is who you are, your vision statement is who you want to be when you grow up. Now go forward. So it should be futuristic, memorable, and engaging. You should be able to weigh it against every change you want to make to be sure that change will help you get where you want to go. And it does not have to be some big aspirational thing. If your vision for your business is to have 20 locations in 15 years and 300 employees, cool, great. If your vision statement is to help you comfortably retire in 10 years, wonderful. Put it down on paper. You don't have to share your vision statement with everybody in the world, but it should be the thing you can weigh all of your decisions against. So say it's to retire in 10 years. That's your vision. An opportunity comes up 8 years down the road to invest 60% of the business's funds into opening a second location. Weigh that against the vision statement. Is that going to help you get there? If it is, cool, go for it. If it's not, maybe lose it. The reason vision statements are very important is, I don't know about all of you, but I have shiny syndrome. I'll be running along doing something and I'm like, oh, this is a great idea. Look at this shiny thing. I should totally do that. That is not always a good idea. Sometimes something is a good idea, but it's not a good idea for me based on what I want to accomplish. First year of business, I picked up a bunch of projects. I was doing a whole bunch of stuff. I started out just doing web design and marketing, and all of a sudden I picked up graphic design and print media and planning events. And it's like, hold on a second, how did I get this far off track? So vision statements help you stay focused on what you really want to accomplish. Some good vision statements, just as I'll give you an example, IKEA's is to create a better everyday life for many people. Obviously, they're not there yet, but that's what they're trying to do with their easy to assemble products that really help people live in different kind of setups. Patagonia's is probably the most aspirational of the list, but if you know Patagonia, that's just who they are as a company. Their vision is to build the best product, cause no unnecessary harm, use business to inspire and implement solutions to the environmental crisis. That is behind everything that Patagonia does. On a much more down-to-earth vision, Southwest Airlines is to become the world's most loved, most flown, and most profitable airline. As you can see, not inspirational at all. They just want to make money and have people like them. Totally acceptable. American Express's is, we work hard every day to make American Express the world's most respected service brand. So therefore, every decision they make should help them accomplish that goal. If they decide to cut half their service population, employees, that is not going to help them reach that goal. So keep in mind what it is you want to be when you grow up and what's actually going to help you get there. So you've explained your business, who, what, where, when, how, who you are, what you want to be when you grow up. Now what? Now you get into the definition of the market. So describe your business, industry, and outlook. For some of you, this is very easy. You described it in about 4 slashes earlier, Victor. For some of you, this is a little more difficult. I've had some clients who have invented a new thing, and so then they have to explain it to all of us lay folks so we understand what they're doing. You need to define the specific needs you will satisfy. So what are you actually doing with your business? I get what products you're selling, cool, but what needs are you filling? You aren't selling, furniture. You're selling people's sense of personal style and sense of individuality. You're selling them the comfort of a home that reflects who they are. That's what you're selling. Make sure you identify your targeted customers. Develop that customer profile, age, sex, race, income. For some of you, this isn't going to matter. I can't imagine race factors hugely into your business, but for a hair salon, it very much does, because race impacts the type of hair, which can really impact whether or not the salon can handle it. Age. I guarantee you no one of the age of 16 is able to afford your products, so maybe you should focus on older folks who are more established in their home and their income. One of the biggest problems a lot of young businesses I work with make is when I ask them who their target customer is, they say they're for everybody. But that is patently untrue for every single business ever. If it was, we would all be shopping at Walmart and eating at McDonald's. But we don't, because we all value different things. We value quality, we value convenience, we value price. I'm very much in a stage in my life where I want quality and I want to support local. So I do not shop on Amazon if I can completely avoid it. In fact, I go through absurd lengths to not buy anything on Amazon. Whereas I have friends who are not as well off as me and are in much more precarious positions. So they just buy it wherever they can get it cheapest and convenient. So everybody has different values. They have different concerns. So make sure you're focusing on the people who are actually likely to spend money with you. It might sound like a great idea to reach everybody, but one, it's very expensive to reach everybody. And you might be spending 70% of your budget on people who are never going to be able to afford you and are never going to be interested in the style you offer. So it's good to focus down on who you're actually trying to reach. Obviously, if somebody comes in and they're not in your target, you're not going to turn them away, but you're not going to spend a bunch of money chasing after somebody who doesn't necessarily want you. This is the section that you're going to put all that research from stage one into. You're going to prove those numbers. You're not just going to say, yeah, there's a market for me. Especially if you're going for financing, this is really the section where you prove, yes, there is an interest for this. I had a client that hired me specifically to help them with their business plan, and all I did for 2 hours was just pull a bunch of reports and numbers and put it in their plan to help them go for financing easier. And make sure you tell people where you got those numbers from. You didn't just pull them out of thin air. You got them from very reputable sources. So, talk about what your business is. You've talked about who you're trying to reach. Now's the section to talk about your marketing and your sales strategy. Marketing is the process of creating customers. Very long gone are the days of build it and they will come. It just doesn't exist anymore. You have to tell people you exist and why they should care about you. A lot of businesses go with gut feeling for marketing. Oh, we do this because everybody told us we should do this, or because we've always done this. But that's a good way to just throw money down a well. Research should be the basis on where you spend your money on marketing or your time. So focus on who are your customers and potential customers. Where do they live? What do they care about? Are you offering the kinds of goods or services they want at the most convenient place, at the best time, and in the right amount? Back when I worked at the EDC, I had a bunch of business owners on Pioneer Way and Oak Harbor approach me and go, you work at the EDC, why are our businesses not doing very well? And the first question I asked them was, well, when are you open? And they said, oh, we are open Monday through Friday, 11 to 5. All right. I work Monday through Friday, 10 to 6. When am I supposed to come to your business? Oh, you can come on your lunch break. Nope. No, I need to eat lunch on my lunch break. All you're reaching with people at that hour are retirees. Do retirees have the money to spend on your business? Are you actually reaching the people you need to reach at the time and place you need to reach them with the right amount? I have had to turn clients away in my business because they wanted something more than I could provide. Knowing that can save you a lot of heartbreak down the road. Also, are your prices consistent with what the buyer's view as the value? Now, value is not cost. It doesn't mean you have to offer the cheapest price. Because in fact, something I've learned with my own business very well, Your cost says a lot about you. Obviously, we've all heard of overcharging. People charge way too much for something and you just can't find customers because you can't find anybody who's willing to pay that much money. But you can also chase customers away by charging too little. Because as the old adage goes that we all know, you get what you pay for. If you are significantly under the cost of everybody else, everybody's going to assume there's a reason for that. They might not know it's because everybody else is having absurdly high markups. All they know is, hey, this Adirondack chair is normally $800 and you're trying to sell me this one for $100? What's wrong with it? My old boss was trying to get into selling chairs and he couldn't get any of the businesses to carry it to sell to customers because of that exact scenario. They asked, what's wrong with it? Why is it that cheap? And he said, nothing's wrong with it. That's just how much it cost me to make it. And they didn't really believe him because all of the others were $800. So you can underprice yourself as well. Value is how much something costs versus what it offers. Never ever try to get into a price war with somebody. You will always lose that war. Somebody could always do it cheaper. It is okay to price compare against other businesses and then go, I'm going to charge more, but I'm offering more, so it's fine. So back to the marketing and sales strategy. Identify the customer groups you can best serve. Again, you don't want to spend a bunch of money chasing after people that you have to take so much time to convince want you. You want to find the people who already want you. Understand their needs. Is it value, sustainability, quality, timing? What is it? What is the best way to reach them? Social media, TV, print, radio, in person. Again, that report I showed you earlier, the Mosaic report, shows you what the best medium to reach them is. But you could also tweak this a little bit by trial and error as well. Always consider change. As of right now, the big kid on the block social media-wise, the one you have to have is Facebook. If you're gonna be online, you need to be on Facebook because that's where everybody is. But that's not always going to be the case. Facebook's already capped out. It's no longer growing. In fact, a lot of people are leaving Facebook because of all of the bad publicity and all of the security concerns they've had over the last 2 years. People are migrating. A lot of people are migrating to Instagram, which is kind of hilarious to me because it's the same company. Younger people are constantly migrating to the newest and coolest thing. So always be aware that things are going to change. Don't get stuck in a rut of this is how I market my business because this is how it is. Things change. You need to as well. So you've identified what your business is. You've identified who you're trying to reach. You have identified the best way to reach them. Now you need to explain your product or service. So identify and explain the pricing. Describe your products and services and how they are competitive. And if you need to, you can reference applicable graphics and brochures as needed. Obviously, for some of you, this is incredibly easy. Restaurants are very easy to explain. You just need to explain what kind of category you're in. Carpentry can be a little bit more difficult because there's so many different kinds. So what do you do? So we might need to break this down. Again, going back to the client I had before that had invented something, they had a ton of graphics and brochures in this section because it explained what the thing they were doing did and how it worked. For others, restaurants tend to put menus in here, whatever makes sense for you. And you don't have to put these big, heavy explanations. If you have pictures of your products, you don't have to dump them in this section and suddenly drag the pacing down. You can just say, for more information, for graphics, for pictures, see Appendix A or B, and put it at the end of the plan so that people who are really interested can go look, but the people who don't care aren't going to get bogged down. So I put this slide in here because a lot of folks ask me, but how do I get my price? And it's different for every business, but there really are 3 main ways businesses arrive at their price. You can add up all of your expenses, including your cost of living and materials, and then divide it out by the number of products you can make or the customers you can serve. It is very important, and why I stressed you need to include your cost of living, is, especially if you're going for financing from a bank, a lot of businesses will try to fudge the numbers to make it seem profitable, and they won't pay themselves, or they'll pay themselves like $5 an hour. Any finance professional is going to look at that and go, how are you going to live? If there's a secondary source of income, you know, a spouse that's working, or you have a hefty retirement you're living off of, cool, that's fine. Then your business doesn't necessarily need to pay for your living. But if this is all you're going to do, if this is your sole source of income, you need to be able to pay your own bills in order to keep the business running. The business has to make enough to pay you as well, or you can't do it. Say you can't do the first one. You can't add up all of your expenses because you just don't know. Too much stuff is up in the air. You could also price compare at local competitors. So you can see what other people that do something similar to you are charging. Once again, you do not have to compete on that price. You can charge more if you're providing a better quality, better value, or better customer service. So it just gives you a good starting place. The reason I stress local is local can change how much something is worth drastically. When I was looking at starting my own business, first off, finding online professionals' prices are very difficult because almost all of them make you call them to find out, and I didn't want to do that. But eventually I found some pretty standard rates for Seattle. Low-end rates for marketing and web design in Seattle is about $75 an hour. Average rate is about $150 an hour. Our local businesses cannot afford that. So I had to go a little lower because Whidbey Island is not Seattle. On that same note, don't try to compare yourself against China. They have access to much lower labor than you ever will. So as local as you can get is always the best way to go. You could also, if that method doesn't work for you either, you could just ask potential customers what they would be willing and able to pay. Again, take this with a grain of salt. When I did this, I had people that said, oh, I couldn't pay that much, and then they ended up doing just that, but it's at least a good place to start. But really, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to trial and error. It is easier to raise the price later as you get better at it, as you get more solid, loyal customer base. It is harder to lower prices once you already have established customers. So keep that in mind, but there's a lot of ways to get your price, but whatever makes sense to you and whatever will actually pay the bills is what you should go for. So next section up is organization and management. You've explained what your business is doing. You've explained who you're reaching and how and what you're selling. Now you really need to explain how anything gets done. This is where you lay out your legal form of ownership. So there are a few different ways to structure your business, but the main ones are sole proprietor. That means there is no difference between you and the business. It is legally one and the same. You file the business's income on your personal income statement. All liability falls on you, everything. Partnership means there are at least two people involved in making this business happen. And then there is LLC, which is the most common type of business after sole proprietor. So it is a limited liability company, and there is a firm legal separation between you and the business. This protects you from a lot of liability. So if something goes wrong, most of the time, they can't come after you personally. They can only go after the assets of the business. The caution with that is that you have to be very careful to not what they call piercing the corporate veil. You can't use personal assets, or you can't use company assets for personal use. So if you have a company truck, you can't use that to go on vacation or to pick up the kids. If you have a business account, which you have to have a separate account for an LLC, you can't use the business's debit card to go buy yourself groceries. What you need to do, it's still your business, your assets, but what you have to do is write yourself a check, deposit that in your personal business account, and then you can go do whatever you want with the money. Corporations is the most formal structure, and we have very few corporations here in Island County. They tend to be outside companies that have a branch here. The closest thing we have really is nonprofits. You have to have an annual meeting. You have to have a board of directors. You do not get sole control of the business. You have to have minutes and bylaws and lots of very formal structures. Honestly, it's not worth it for pretty much any of you that would ever come to a class like this. You can also change your ownership later. So you could always start out as a sole proprietor and then change to LLC later. My business is a sole proprietor because it's me in my home office, which you're in right now. I don't have a physical aspect of my business. I don't have any employees. I don't have a physical good. It's all online. So there's virtually no liability for me. But, your carpentry and woodwork, there's a lot of liability for you. You need a lot of insurance, you need bonding, you could get hurt in a lot of ways. People could get hurt in a lot of ways with your business. So you probably would want an LLC, Victor, but it's really up to your business and what makes sense for you. And again, you can always change your structure later. So you could start out as a sole proprietor. Down the road, you realize, oh, I need to be an LLC for insurance purposes. You can convert to an LLC later. It's totally fine. You also need to have an explanation of how things get done. So write down and establish that chain of command if you're working with multiple people to get everyone on the same page. You don't need 3 different people doing the books. You just need one, because otherwise it's going to get really confusing. Who's responsible for making sure the bills get paid every month? Who's responsible for making sure that emails get answered? Who's responsible for filling the orders? Who's responsible for actually making the product? Make sure you lay all of these things out so that everybody's on the same page and you know what everybody else is doing. If you have a super formal corporation, this is called the bylaws. It's legally how everything is laid out and how things happen. If you have an LLC, you do not have to, but I would recommend having an operating agreement. This is just something you can find a lot of examples online that you could crib from, but it just lays down how things happen, how things get done. You could get it notarized. You don't even have to go necessarily to a lawyer, but this really helps if you fall ill or if, you sell the business or anything like that. The reason it's good to have something like this on hand is, God forbid, if something happened to you, what happens to your business? Does it automatically go to your spouse? Does it go to your kids? Does it go to the employees? If you haven't laid that out, the murkiness of it can lock it up in legal limbo for up to 4 years. How many businesses do you know could survive without making any funds for 4 years? So it's better to just cut that off at the pass and lay it down on paper. Make sure you have all of your required licenses and permits. You will have to get a Washington State Department of Licensing business license. The Secretary, you have to file with the Department of Licensing and the Secretary of State in Washington State. And then you also have to file with the IRS to get your employer identification number. Even if you don't have any employees, you need the EIN because that's basically your social security number for your business. It's how the IRS identifies it. You might, depending on where you live, you might need additional business licenses as well. If you live within the city limits of Langley or Oak Harbor, they have city business licenses you need. And unfortunately, they might have changed it due to current circumstances. But historically, they have only allowed you to do that in person at City Hall. The other ones you can do online or mail something in. If you live in any unincorporated, so you live in Maxwellton or Freeland or Clinton or Greenbank, anywhere that's outside of the city limits, or even if you live in Coopville, they do not have business licenses. There's no Island County business license. You just need the state one. You can also need a business license if you are not physically located there, but you are doing business. I know Woodby Telecom a few years back got in trouble because they were up in Mount Vernon installing a security system for a business, and the fire marshal almost shut them down because They didn't have a business license. And I said, yeah, we do. We have a state business license. We have the Langley business license, but they didn't have the Mount Vernon business license, which is where they were currently operating in order to install that security system. So they had to go get a Mount Vernon business license. This can be especially true if you deliver any of the products you make, or if you do any street fairs or art shows or anything like that. Again, Coopville doesn't have one, but say you do a street fair in Oak Harbor, you would need to get an Oak Harbor business license, even if you're just there for the 2 days or whatever the festival's running. Also, depending on what industry you're in, you might need to get bonded. You might have specific licenses like food handler's permit or alcohol permits or whatever. There's a lot of different permits you might need depending on what you're doing and where you're located. I'm going to show you a really cool tool this Washington State has for that in just a bit. But the last section you really need in organization and management, if you are going for financing, if you are just using your business plan for yourself, you can skip this section. But if you're going for financing, you need to include the biographies of the key managers or leaders, like the people who are actually making the business happen. Only what's relevant to the business. I don't need, that you babysat at 15. I don't care, unless you're running a daycare. But I need to know that you know what you're doing. We had one client when I was working at the EDC who wanted to open a restaurant, but she had been in the Army and then a prison security guard for years. Okay, cool, but have you ever worked in a restaurant? Because restaurants run on such fine margins that if you don't know exactly what you're doing, you're doomed from the start. So due to this section, working on it, we realized she needed to go hire a manager that did know what they were doing. So that's the organization and management section, pretty straightforward. This is the tool I was telling you earlier about trying to figure out how or what permits and licenses you need. The business.wa.gov, their website has a business licensing wizard. So I'm actually going to go ahead and go to that. So again, going to business.wa.gov. Here's their site. Go away. There's a lot of really helpful information up here. Obviously, a lot of this is COVID-19 resources, payment protection program, but they have a small business guide. They have helpful information, but where I'm going to scroll past all of this, and I'm going to come right down to linking to your success section. So they have a small business guide, as I mentioned earlier. They have a payroll calculator, which is incredibly helpful. I actually used this myself last summer when I was contemplating hiring someone. I decided I wanted to pay them $15 an hour. So how much was that actually going to cost me based on all of the taxes and insurance and everything I would have to pay? This tool right there told me how much that would be. So super helpful. The business license service is where the application is located, but the business license wizard is what you're looking for. This wizard will let, that's so weird. I hope it's not broken. There we go. So the business license wizard actually lets you put in what category you're in, whether or not you're going to be employing minors, where you're physically located, all of that information. And then it will actually spit out a list for you of what permits and applications you need, what licensing you need, and where to get them. They have links to all of those sites and how much they cost and how much time it takes. And the great thing is because it is a DOR product, it will actually, and when you go through to the Secretary of State application, it will auto-populate all of the information you already put in, so you don't have to retype it. So this helps a ton. I really appreciate this tool. It's a lot of fun to fiddle with. So if you're wondering what licensing, permits, bonds, whatever you need, this tool will help you. It is the Business License Wizard on business.wa.gov. So next section is everybody's favorite, financials. How are you actually gonna make it? I've worked with a lot of businesses who have said like, oh, this is a great idea. And I'm like, okay, cool. How are you going to make money? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, how are you going to make any money? It's a great idea. Okay, cool. But where's the money coming from? This is the section to really lay that out. The key financial statements you're going to need, again, if you are going for financing. If you are self-financing, you're writing this business plan really just for yourself, you can skip this section. But if you're going to the bank, if you're going to will, if you're going to any sort of funders, they're going to need this information. You're going to need a cash flow. So this is showing when money goes in and when money comes out. The balance sheet. So at a specific point in time, where are you at as far as incomes and expenses? And then the income statement is a year picture of how much money you actually made in the year. If you are starting a new business, you're going to need your personal income statement. You're going to need your taxes for the last 3 years. But you're going to need an estimate of the startup costs. So how much is it going to cost you to get started? You know, find a building, buy any equipment you need, marketing expenses, that sort of stuff. And then you're going to need 12 months of projected cash flow. So over the next 12 months, how do you see your business doing? If you need help with that, that is really where SCORE and the Small Business Development Center excel. Write the rest of your business plan, go to them, go with it to them. They'll help you tweak it and improve it, and they'll help you lay out your financials if you don't know how to do that on your own. If you are wanting to buy an existing business from somebody else, the person who is trying to sell you their business is going to need to give you the balance sheet for the business for the last 3 years, income statements for the last 3 years for the business, not themselves, and then a cash flow statement for the last 12 months. If they will not provide this to you and they are trying to sell you their business, run. They are fooling you. They are doing something shady, but don't buy the business unless you can get all 3 of these documents from them and that you can get it looked over by the bank and approved. A cash flow statement looks like this on the right. Obviously, it's truncated. It goes a lot farther down and a lot farther over. But the function of the cash flow is a monthly statement of cash on hand, incoming cash, and expenses. It's used to project the working capital availability and shortages. So for example, I worked with a dance studio once that obviously summer was a big boom for them. Parents that needed something to do with their kids, they needed them to get them in activities out of the house. There were a lot of camps that people could go to. So summer was very big for them. The flip side, January through March was very, very slow because folks just didn't have expendable money. So because they did the cash flow, they could see that upcoming dip. So when they were flush with funds in the summer months, they could sit on those funds so that they could coast through the slow months rather than spending all of the flush months and then being in trouble come the slow months. A lot of businesses around here have to do that. You know, winter is very slow for most tourism-based businesses. Summer is very good. So you have to be able to coast along evenly, even though your money is probably doing something like this. I really like this cash flow because it reminds you of things you might have forgotten. So as you can see, even just in this little window, the cash paid out has, you know, purchases of merchandise, gross wages, outside services, repairs and maintenance, car delivery and travel, accounting and legal, all of these things you might forget. Oh yeah, that's a thing I should probably budget for. Phone. So even if you're not going to use all of these categories, like obviously, you know, for my business, I don't use car delivery and travel. Sometimes I do when I'm driving to meet a client, but most of the time I don't. I don't pay rent because my business is my desk in the corner of my living room and I'm not legally allowed to charge rent for this shared space. But some businesses, rent is a huge portion of their business. So it's different for all of you. This specific cash flow form, I think I just found it by Googling Excel cash flow. But Excel has a good one you can use actually built into the system when you open it up. going back to the Small Business Reference Center we were looking at earlier from the library, that's why I showed you, you can click and download that statement. So there are a lot of tools to get something like this. So feel free to poke around on the internet to get one that works for you, or build your own. Appendices are last in the business plan. They are not vital. If you don't have any appendices, it is totally fine. You don't have to include them. But this is where you put all of the supplemental information that is helpful to really bolster your case if you're going to somebody for financing. So this is where you can put your brochures, your resumes. If you already have business equipment. When I was helping, one time we were helping a doctor's office open. Their list of startup expenses was 20 pages long because there's just so many little things that go into a doctor's office. Putting 20 pages worth of startup costs in the middle of the business plan would have just lost anybody who was trying to read it. So what we did was we put the total and like a few examples of what that covered, and then said, if you want to actually see the full list of startup costs, go look in Appendix 2. So it helps keep the flow, helps bolster your case if you're trying to get money from somebody, but it doesn't slow down the flow of your business plan by putting that information right where you're talking about it. My biggest caution with you is if you put anything in the appendix, you need to say that you put it there. Do not put something in the appendix if it's not referenced in the business plan itself, because then no one will know to go look for it. Anytime you put something in an appendix, you should have a matching reference somewhere in your business plan that says, see appendix. You know, you can number these however you want, A through Z, 1 through 100, whatever makes sense to you. Just be consistent. Don't be like, see appendix 1 and then see appendix C. That makes no sense. So now you've written your business plan. And if you have any questions on business plans, please feel free to ask me. But you've written your business plan. Now is the time for even more feedback. Get everyone you can to read your business plan. Anybody who's willing to sit down and read it for a second, get them to read it. And take their advice. That doesn't mean you have to implement their advice, but I know for me, when I'm working on a passion project and I ask someone what they thought and they come back with criticisms, sometimes it hurts. And sometimes I just, knee-jerk reaction of, no, you don't know what you're talking about. You're stupid. I walk away, I take a breath, take a moment to calm down and look at their feedback again. It might be valid. It not always is, because sometimes people genuinely don't know what they're talking about. But they might have a point and you might need to revise it a bit. There are, again, a ton of organizations out there, SCORE, SBDC. There are some intensive courses just built around helping you write a better business plan. And again, business plans aren't just for financing, though if you're going for financing, you have to have one. But even if you're not, they're very helpful because they help keep you focused, even if it's just a tool for yourself. So you need to spend a little bit of time adjusting it and making sure it works for your business. Now on to the note of financing. There are a number of ways to finance a business. You can self-finance. So, this is running off your own savings and maybe you don't have a lot of startup costs and you can just go and run the business. That's how mine worked. I already owned a computer. I think my only startup cost was like $100 worth of business cards and marketing materials, and I could fork that out of my own account. But say you have more expenses and you can't cover them on your own. You could always go to friends and family and ask them to help you out. You could use your credit cards. Then you can go to bank loans. There's the SBA. So I need to explain this really quickly because it confuses a lot of people. The SBA does not actually make any loans. You can't go to the SBA to get a loan. That's not how it works. What the SBA does is they guarantee the loan. So basically they're saying, okay, if this person doesn't pay it back, we'll cover it. You still have to get an SBA loan from an actual bank, but that guarantee just allows them to say yes to you or to give it to you at a better rate than they would otherwise be able to do. Obviously, if you skip out on an SBA loan, you taint your credit and the government's going to be coming after you for like ever. But the SBA is a bank loan that is guaranteed by the SBA. That's how it works. If you don't want to go that way, you could always do a line of credits, or you could do traditional loans. You could mortgage your house. There's a lot of different ways. If you go the bank route, shop around. You are not going to offend your banker, but every single bank has their own priorities, their own portfolio of things they will and will not do. So if a bank tells you no, that doesn't mean your idea is not financeable. It's just not something that bank can do. So you need to ask another bank. And even if a bank says yes, a different bank might be able to give you, a shorter term or a better price or lower rates. So make sure you shop around. It's just the savvy thing to do. Once you find a banker, stick with them. They should be your best friend. You should check with them constantly. You should tell them everything, because in the process of a loan, everything is going to come out anyway. And if they have to find out the hard way, they can't help you. But if you tell them everything up front, your banker is not the one that approves or rejects your loan. That's not how it works. The banker helps you get your loan package together, and then they submit it to a panel who decides whether or not to fund it. If you've kept your banker in the loop, if you've got the banker on your side, they can be your advocate to that panel. So if the panel comes back and says no, that banker, I've talked to a number of bankers here, and they've actually done this. They've gone to a panel and said, no, you have to approve this one because this person is huge in the community. They've always succeeded at everything they've done. They're very important. This is going to work here. I know it doesn't work in the numbers and on paper, but it's going to work here in this community, and you have to do it or we're going to lose a huge client. And they got it approved. The banker cannot do that for you if you don't have them on your side. So don't try to hide things from your banker. It's not going to work. You could also go angel investors. I think Seattle has a pretty good angel investor program. You could go peer-to-peer. So this is Woodby Island Local Lending. Again, how that works, they are not an official organization. They can't be. It's just a group of people who happen to live here who have decided they want to invest their money locally on Woodby Island and not, off on some Wall Street or anything like that. So it's individual people lending you money directly, and you do have to pay it back. You could also do crowdfunding. So the whole idea behind crowdfunding is getting a little bit of money from a lot of people that adds up to a lot of money. There are online crowdfunding tools like Kickstarter or Indiegogo. Washington State actually allows for a statewide crowdfunding, so you can actually sell shares to your company like a stock market, up to $1 million, I think. That one's a really complex program to get through. I don't know anyone around here that's done it. But the biggest idea behind crowdfunding, at least online, is that you don't actually have to pay that money back, but you do have to reward them in stuff. So some sort of reward, whether that's their name on something or a physical good or access to the product sooner than everyone else. It could be they're just pre-purchasing the product so that they give you the opportunity to buy the equipment and materials now. There's a lot of ways crowdfunding can work. Crowdfunding is very difficult. It requires a lot of effort from you and consistently. So if you're the kind of person who doesn't like asking people for stuff, crowdfunding is not for you, because that's literally all crowdfunding is doing. You have to ask everybody you know, even tangentially, even people you just happen to sit next to in the bar, if they'd be interested in donating money or contributing money to you. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to finance. I actually have a video on it, so I'm going to go ahead and play that because I do genuinely love this video. If you have any questions on financing, please feel free to ask them. I've been lucky enough to help a few financing experts run a how to finance your business workshop a number of years in a row. It's always a great workshop. We had it planned for Wednesday. That is no longer going to happen because of the current climate. All of the bankers are just swamped up to their neck with current loans. Hopefully we'll be able to bring that back in the fall, but I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have about that as well. Obviously, I'm not a finance expert, but I've been working on things like this for a number of years, so I can point you in the right direction. So next up is bookkeeping, everyone's favorite task. Bookkeeping is keeping track of every dollar you get in and every dollar you spend. You don't have to go for the pricey and complicated QuickBooks. There are a number of tools out there online, depending on how your business works, what you're doing, how many transactions you have in a month. I have maybe 4 a month, and I use a free tool called Wave, but you could even keep it on paper in a notebook. You could use Excel, or you could hire someone. If you want to know more about bookkeeping, we literally just had a bookkeeping class on Wednesday, and that's up on our YouTube channel. But we will be offering it again next month. Biggest caution I will give with bookkeeping is it's just not worth taking money under the table. And illegally, I have to say that, but I honestly believe that as a person too. Outside of the legal problems, if you get caught, because I know a lot of people out there are like, I wouldn't get caught. Cool. You can still shoot yourself in the foot with it, even if you never get caught. There was a restaurant here that made easily $1 million a year. It was a very popular restaurant. The owner went to retire and he wanted to sell the business. He couldn't give it away. He'd been taking money out of the till, which, all right, fine, your business, your whatever. Problem is, every year when he filed his taxes, those numbers showed that he had been running in the red for years, that he'd been running at a deficit. And because you have to hand those documents over to somebody when you're trying to sell the business, and you can't say at that time, oh, I've been taking money out of the till, that's why it's in the red. Nope, the numbers, the official numbers that you've given every single year show you're running in the red. This business is not profitable. So in an effort to save a little bit of money here and there every year on taxes, he lost himself a $3 million retirement. Because the average cost of selling a business is 3 years worth of income for that business. It's not worth taking money under the table. Record it. When it comes to tax filing time, it is genuinely worth getting a CPA to do your filing. Not an accountant, not necessarily doing it yourself. I mean, obviously you can, I do. But CPA accountants went to school, they got educated and trained once, they're good to go. CPAs have to get continuing education every single year. They always have to learn the newest trends, which is important because I don't know if you know this, but the tax law changes every single year. So a CPA is the one most qualified and most educated to get you the most amount of money back, or give you the smallest bill that you have to pay. They are worth their weight in gold, and they will charge you that, but the clearer your records are, the less they're going to cost you. So to recap, because we're right about on time, we have about 15 minutes left. Have a plan. It's not about it's about the process, not the piece of paper. Don't care if it's this fancy, super well laid out, really cool, edgy presentation, or, you know, college level paper. I don't care about that. I care that it makes sense to you, that it's laid out in a way that makes sense to you, that you can come back and reference. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's for. It's required if you're going for financing, but really everyone should have a plan just so you know what you're doing and what you want to get out of your business. To do it well, you need to research. You focus on target customers, not all potential customers, and use facts, not emotion. It's really easy way to lose some money running on emotion. And you can also have multiple targets. So you could have direct client buyers and you could have businesses that you're targeting. It's okay to have multiple targets, but stay focused on the target, not trying to get as many people as possible. Do not go it alone. Business is a very difficult thing. It's scary. It's frustrating, especially when things like this happen. And the fact that you're looking at either starting or improving your business in a time where we are 100% heading towards a pretty hefty recession, if not a depression, it's a scary time to be in business. But you don't have to do it by yourself. There's the library, there's the Small Business Development Center, there's SCORE, there's these workshops that we teach. There are so many organizations out there that their whole purpose for being is to help you. So, don't be a tough man trying to tough it out on your own. Lean on other people. It is okay. Make sure you organize the right way, whether that's sole proprietor, LLC, corporation, partnerships. I didn't mention this earlier with structures, but if you go the partnership route, I would caution to drop the disillusionment documents at the same time. Partnerships almost never work. Inevitably, somebody feels like they're doing all the work and someone else is getting all the money. It's not a fair arrangement. If you think about it, the leading cause of divorce in America is financials. Imagine how hard that is when the financials is the only reason you're together. So be careful with partnerships. They very rarely work and they can be very messy. But whatever works best for your business, make sure you're organized the right way. Make sure you're licensed, bonded, insured, cover your butts, and believe in yourself. I know this sounds really hokey, but what you're doing, it's really hard, but it's really cool. You'll hear politicians say this over and over, but small businesses really are the backbone of our communities. They are what makes everything work. They're why people can live here. They're why people can enjoy what they do. You're becoming part of that, and that's really cool. So, you're good at what you do, or you wouldn't even consider starting your own business doing it. It's going to get hard. It's going to be scary. There are times you're going to wonder, why did I do this to myself? But I think you can do it. You're already a step ahead of anything else because you bothered to come to this workshop. You bothered to get prepared and to try. So keep that in mind. You can do this. I genuinely believe it. Just keep sticking with it. All right, so next thing you'll need to consider is your location. Where is your business actually going to be based? Are you going to be a home-based business working out of your home? Are you going to sell things primarily online? Are you going to on-site or travel? So this means you are going to your customer wherever they are located. Are you going to sell through shows or markets, trade shows, street fairs, anything like that? Are you going to sell through other shops? So you make the thing and then you sell it through someone else who has a physical location. Or are you going to have your own storefront, your own shop that people can come to and look at your things? If you are going for a physical location, do your research. What is the landlord like? Why did the last business leave? If you can't get in touch with the last business owner, ask their neighbors. How's the parking and the foot traffic? A bad landlord can destroy your business no matter how good you are. So doing your research on the location. If it seems like it's too good to be true, it probably is. So what's up? There's upsides and downsides to every business. Is it an upside and a downside you can live with? Make sure you get a good team around you. Even if you don't have any employees, you still have contractors you work with, like cleaners, bookkeepers, your legal team. You have your support team, your friends and family. There's also professional support out there. I've said these names over and over and over throughout this workshop, so here they are on the screen again. And seriously, go look them up if you haven't. But your customers can also be your team. Your customers are excited about what you're doing. They're excited about what they can get from you. Don't be afraid to lean on them for it, especially in this day and age People know we need to support our small businesses, and we're doing whatever we can to do that. So don't be afraid to be open and honest with your customers and tell them how they can help you. Marketing. Just kidding. We're not going to talk about marketing. We've already talked for almost 2 hours. There is a building a marketing plan class. I believe it is first weekend of June. But double check that on our Facebook page or on our website. Again, seeing how it's going right now, it's probably going to still be online. Or if you want to get started even sooner and you don't want to wait until June, I actually did a marketing crash course a few weeks ago, and that is up on our YouTube channel right now. So you could check that out right now if you wanted to. So next steps. I'm so glad you came here today, but if that is all you've done, you've just wasted your morning. So you need to put what you've learned into action. Write a business plan. Include those financial projections. Talk with a business mentor or coach or other business advisor. You could use the services I've talked about here, but you could also just find businesses that you admire and that you want to be like and talk to the owner and see if they'll mentor you. You'd be surprised how many business owners are totally on board with that idea. They don't see you as competition. They just see it as helping the next generation of business owner. So reach out and find people to help you do what you do better. Make sure you get feedback on your business plan and make it better so that your business has a bigger chance of success. So again, here's a ton of the resources we went over today. I will send the slide out so everybody can see all of their resources and all the links. And there's so many more online as well that I didn't even get into. There's a lot of stuff out there that will help you do better. So on that note, that is my spiel. It's been, we have 5 minutes left in the class. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. This is your time. But if you don't, thank you so much for coming. I really hope you guys do well with your businesses. Good luck, especially in these trying times, but even beyond that, stick with it. I really believe you can do it.